Hi everyone and welcome to this new appointment with the Embodiment Café. This is the number 38 and today we are talking about learning and how the things are integrated in our daily life. And we will make some examples from normal learning, daily life learning and the practices. So what we are learning, how we are learning when we are practicing embodiment. So, um, learning. Learning is, I would say, sometimes can be seen as something difficult, sometimes can be seen as something easy. We know that there are many techniques for learning something. We know that if we put a little bit of playfulness, we play a little bit with the things, we learn better. We know that if we just have to read and nothing else happens, it's really, I mean, for someone it's really easy, but usually for the majority of the people it is quite difficult. We need at least to add another channel, so not just the eyes, so not just the sight, I see what I have to get, but maybe I have to hear it also, or I have to speak it also. And another way to learn in a better way or in an easier way is to use movement, so in a kinesthetic way. So using movement and being aware of the space where we are and attaching some movement to what we are learning. So I make just some examples, adding movement to what we are learning. Um, I make this example that an experience that I had with my daughter. She needed to do some exercises of math, and it was difficult for her because not because she cannot understand, but because she was tired already, and she did already a lot of exercises, and she was probably also bored just to read and having to think and write it down. And maybe also the method that she had to use to do these calculations was not really such a method that is really helping the child, but it's like a little bit more difficult. Okay, so I thought, why not? Let's use some movement and some sounds. So each time that she had to do an like for example 5 plus 3, I just make a simple operation. It's, usually they were a little bit more complicated, but let's say 5 plus 3. I was not just telling her 5 plus 3, but we were doing together. We were clapping the hands and doing 5 plus 3, and then with the hand we were pointing, and this was the movement who was giving us the result. So from a child that was like, oh mama, I don't know what to write, I'm so tired. She was really like that. In really 10 seconds, she was 5 plus 3, 8. She was quickly giving the answer. Now, this was an easy answer, but she had to give more complicated answers. And she was easily and quickly giving an answer. We were giving, we were working with movements and giving the answer. This was the movement of the answer, and we were giving also sounds, so clapping the hands and using the voice. So not just reading and thinking, having to keep everything in mind, but putting it out in the space so that she could get the feedback from her own voice into the ear so that she could really, 5 plus 3, I got it. And she gave the answer. So this is one experience, private, personal experience that I had. And I saw that it was working pretty well. Yes, movement plus uh, all the senses. If we can put together all the senses, it's not really overwhelming, can really help us to get a more global idea of what's happening. And in this case, probably there was also an element of playfulness. We were playing a little bit with the words, with the sounds, with the body, with the numbers. We were taking less seriously and more happily, let's say. Instead of saying, you have to tell what is 5 plus 3. And so we were putting a little bit of emphasis on a little bit more lightness. So playing a little bit, even if this is not really playfulness, but we were putting a little bit more emphasis also on this. So this is one point. So if we are using not only one sense to learn something, but we put also other senses in helping us to see the global picture, it's getting easier. Each of us has a preferred channel to learn things. And then there are less preferred channels and other channels that are useful for learning. So, for example, someone has a preferred channel is hearing, another one preferred channel is to repeat, so the sound getting the feedback from himself, for example, or another one has really to move. Some children, they cannot just stand, be still and read, still, not moving. It's difficult also for me. It's difficult for many of us. I mean, we need to move at a certain point. Yeah, we cannot always sit still and focus on what we are reading. When something is really interesting, of course, we are completely inside the book, of course, can be really interesting. But nevertheless, at a certain point, we need also to move a little bit. So some other children or some other people, they really need to move to feel it inside. Yeah. And other people, they can really just read and using their eyes, and then they get it. Or, for example, they are good they read and they get the meaning, but then, for example, they have to create graphics and all sorts of mental maps so that the meaning of what they're reading is really staying it's really integrated then in the mind, in the body, everywhere. So this is the first thing. Different channels to learn. The other thing, and that's also why I would say I just make a little bracket. I open brackets and I close them then. That's also why, for example, just telling ourselves, for example, I have to be stronger, I have to keep better boundaries, it's all mentally. But if we are also doing some exercises and involving also the body and movements, then can be easier to learn, for example, to put more boundaries, or easier to feel more comfortable with ourselves and so on. So saying it just reading, it's difficult to learn. Yeah. And when we need to change an habit, which is one of the most difficult things to do, just telling us, I have to do like that, it's one of the worst and most unproductive things to do if we really want to change the habit. Habits are not changeable, not so easily changeable just because we want it. We need to change in little steps the things, and we need to make experience of the little steps, and we need to make experience in the little steps and to feel that we are still safe. Yes, because the habit is something that it is a habit because we are feeling comfortable in it. We are feeling comfortable in behaving like that, in doing in this way, meaning we are feeling safe. As human beings, we are made like that. We are looking for something that is making us feel safe. And if we are doing always the same thing in the same ways, we are feeling okay, we're feeling safe. It's part of our history, of our ancestors' history. It's part of how we were made in the evolution, what we were experiencing during the evolution of humankind. Yeah. So we need to feel safe, and if we need to change habit, that we cannot just tell us to change habit, because we know that maybe we need it, but we won't do it because it would make us feel unsafe. So we need to do little steps and changing little things, for example, during the routine of the day, so that we can change one little thing inside of our routine of the day, but changing little things, making experience of it, and then feeling that we are still safe and that we are not in danger, for example. And if we are just telling ourselves, so using just one channel, it's not working. If we are using also the body and making experience that it's still okay, still fine, it's a completely other world. It's different. The changes are coming. So this is the first thing. The other thing is that there are different steps in learning. So the first step is anyway the most difficult, because we have to actively bring into consciousness, into awareness, what we are doing. So, for example, we learn to ride a bicycle, and we have to consciously put the pedal a little bit further and not in the back, so that when we are pushing with our foot, which is actually it's the leg which is pushing, it's easier. Otherwise it's getting more difficult. We need to remember that when we are holding ourselves at a certain point, we will be without the feet on the ground. So we will have this moment where we need to balance our weight. So we will need to remember that the weight has to be on both sides or in the center, so that we can balance and we can go straight. We have to remember that it's better to look forward and not in the back, for example, or not down. Otherwise, we will fall. We have to remember that when the danger is approaching, we have to use the brakes and so on. And when we are learning how to ride a bicycle, all these little steps are all popping in our mind, and we have really to use consciously, actively our mind to tell ourselves what to do. The balance of my weight. I have to put better to put the pedal in the front, or better to have a big push of the first, so that I have a big momentum. They don't say like that, the children, but that's the meaning. I have a big momentum so that I can go faster, and maybe it's easier to keep the balance. Oh, someone is crossing my way, another child is crossing my way, I have to use the brake, and so on. So we really need to use consciously a lot our mind to tell ourselves what to do. And if you remember also, when we were doing some movement practices, I was saying now the exercise will be a little bit mechanical. We will need to put lots of effort in it, because we need to, for example, the exercise of changing direction. I have to tell myself, now I go in this direction with this arm, and the other one is in the other direction, and then I change direction. I have first to remember, where do I want to go? This direction, and then I put myself in this other direction, and then I change direction. I go up, and then I change direction. But I have to tell myself before I do the movement where I need to go. And then the thing is integrated, we say, and the body is moving by itself. So as well as in the movement practice and in the learning how to ride a bicycle, After a while, the child is learning how to use the balance, the weight, and when to use the brakes, and how to use the push of the legs to start the ride with the bicycle, and doesn't need to think about it anymore. It's just going. He's just doing it, and it's happening, and it's not needed to be always brought up into conscious mind. It's going after the integration, we call it like that, it's going into the subconscious mind. So it's not, every step is not thought each moment, but it's something that is happening anyway on a subconscious level. And the same is happening with movement practices or practices of embodiment, for example. At the beginning, we have to tell us what to do, how to do it. And at a certain point, we will see that it will become natural. When we say, oh, I feel it's getting out naturally, yeah, it's more natural. That's because you integrated the knowledge that first you had to bring consciously, you integrated it, and now it's on a subconscious level. Which means after that you are practicing a lot and doing lots of embodiment exercises, you will find yourself at a certain point that you will be in a certain situation, and you will be surprised of how you will respond to it. Why? It happened also to me, and I was with an uncomfortable person, and I was thinking nothing actually, but I realized that my body was trying to find a good grounding, and I was immediately trying to feel the sole of my feet, changing position of my body, using a more upper position, taking more authority to talk with this person, and focusing on my breath, because I know that if I'm focusing on my breath, I'm more centered. I am able also to have a different tone of voice, so that also the communication is better. And I realized after a little bit, after some minutes, that I was doing all those things without even thinking about it. So this is what I mean. I was riding the bicycle without consciously bringing up in the conscious mind what I needed to do, because I practiced before what I needed to do. And so it's the same thing. It's happening like that. So this is what I wanted to say today. So about learning, the phases of learning, and also how do we learn. So we learn in different ways. We use different channels to learn, and for some it's better one channel, for some other ones it's better another channel. Nevertheless, if we can use more channels, it's helping to have a broader image, broader picture of what we need to learn. And the other thing is that there are different steps of learning. And just to make it simple, there is the first part we need to bring in the conscious mind, uh, the, the, the learning, so also like the steps of how to do what to do in each moment. And then when it's integrated, so when it's getting natural, they say natural, it's because it's in our unconscious mind. But from there, it's faster to reach to the information, to reach to the uh, tool that we need in each situation. And this is really important in embodiment practices, because you need to practice, yes, often, more often that you can. The more you are practicing, the better it is. But at a certain point, your bodies will understand how it's the game, and your mind too. So the mind won't be overwhelmed by I have to remember everything, every step, everything I have to say. But and the body will uh, flourish by itself and saying, "Hey, let's do like that," and you will feel yourself in difficult situation. You will say, "Uh huh, yeah, it's not so bad." I was able to deal in a nice way. So this is all learning what's happening, stages, and I hope this was helpful. And I hope to see you the next week for the next Embodiment Café Q&A, chatting all around embodiment. And for today, it's all. And I'm Alessandra Carese, and I'm your embodiment coach. Bye bye.